In the year 15,000, deep inside the heart of the Zalith trade ring, a massive space station floated calmly between the orbits of two twin suns, where thousands of alien species gathered every solar cycle to trade rare minerals, technology, spices, and stories. But on this particular day, something different echoed through the great halls of the alien bar known as the Silver Fang, where a group of young officers from the Thalrex Navy laughed loudly as an old veteran named Commander Relowin told a tale most considered too foolish to be true. He spoke of a ship, not just any ship, but a human ship, long lost in the darkness of space, a ship so advanced and so deadly that even the Council refused to keep records of it in the Central Archives. A ship called the Revenant, built by Earth during the final days of the Human Council War, and said to be the last thing humanity created before they vanished from the galactic stage. Most of the bar chuckled when he said the name. Humans, they believed, were another short-lived species that burned too bright and disappeared too fast, leaving behind ruins, old relics, and broken satellites in forgotten systems that now belonged to others. With one glassy eye, and metal arms that trembled slightly when he lifted his drink, leaned closer to the table of laughing officers, and said in a low, serious voice that cut through the noise, "They didn't vanish, they waited." The laughter stopped for a second. One of the younger officers, trying to look brave, asked what he meant, and the old commander replied with a slow, tired smile, "That ship, the Revenant, it wasn't destroyed, it went dark on purpose. It had one mission: wait for the galaxy to forget, and then return." But again, the table burst into laughter. "No ship can wait for thousands of years," they said. "Even machines die," another added, and with a shrug, the group moved on to their next drink, ignoring the veteran and his warnings, forgetting the story within moments. But not everyone laughed. In a quiet corner of the bar, Observer Telestri, an AI embedded in a humanoid shell, paused as he recorded the entire conversation, and somewhere deep in his logic processes, something old, a buried file labeled Earth classified, unlocked itself for the first time in over 2,000 years. 3 hours later, the alarms on the Zalith trade ring screamed louder than ever before. Without warning, a massive gravitational distortion appeared at the edge of the system, something tearing through folded space with no transponder, number signature, no darkness. The station's scanners tried to identify it, but the object was invisible to most frequencies, shaped like nothing in their records, moving at sublight speeds, but creating interference on every comms channel in the region. Commander Relowin stood silently at the observation deck, watching the stars bend unnaturally. He didn't speak, he didn't move, he just whispered, "It's here." The station's defense grid went online. Fighter squadrons were scrambled. Battle cruisers in orbit turned their weapons toward the anomaly. But then, everything stopped working. The comms fell silent. The targeting systems went offline, and the gravity began to fluctuate. That was when they saw it. It was shaped like a blade, long and dark, its surface broken by strange symbols and markings that no one could translate, moving slowly, calmly, like a predator that knew it had already won. Then, it fired. Not a missile, not a laser, something older, a pulse of dark energy, slow but unstoppable, passed through one of the defense cruisers without making a sound, and then, 10 seconds later, the entire ship broke apart as if time itself had been reversed, tearing metal and flesh into twisted shapes. No warning. No demand, no voice. Just silence. And then, it vanished. The next day, the Council issued a brief report, calling it a sensor malfunction caused by solar radiation. They said no ship had entered the system. No human vessel had been detected. They silenced the witness reports. They deleted the station's logs, but they couldn't stop the rumors. Across 10 sectors, whispers began to spread like wildfire. The Revenant is real. It has returned, and it remembers. Back in his small quarters aboard the trade ring, Commander Relowin sat alone, staring at the old military badge from the human war. He pressed a button on the back and played a hidden audio file recorded long ago during Earth's final broadcast to the galaxy. The voice was female, calm, and quiet. "You feared our speed, you feared our minds, but you feared one thing above all, that we would not forget." He looked up at the stars, and for the first time in a century, he smiled. In the days following the Zalith incident, things in the galaxy began to shift, not with noise or explosions, but with a strange and growing silence that spread through the outer systems, like a storm with no wind stations, stopped answering. Patrol routes went dark, and miners began to whisper about strange shadows drifting through space, too quiet to be pirates, too fast to be natural, and too controlled to be a glitch. Nobody wanted to say the word out loud, but everyone who'd heard the old stories knew what it sounded like. REVENANT. At first, the Council dismissed these reports as hysteria. They called the Zalith scan a system glitch, the missing ship's local radar activity, and the whispers of an old human ship fear-fueled fiction. But behind closed doors, the Council's military core was anything but calm, because deep in their restricted archives, in a sealed vault that hadn't been opened for 400 years, the file marked Vanix had suddenly become active. Inside the file was everything the Council had once sworn to forget. Diagrams of an advanced Terran prototype, built in secret during the final year of the Human Council War, a ship powered not only by reactors, but by a hybrid AI based on human memory patterns, something Earth had never dared release into battle, not because it was unfinished, but because it was too dangerous, even for them. The last known log of the ship came just before the final bombing of Earth. Unit Revenant, detached, no crew, directive encoded, memory locked, awaiting silence, and then, nothing. Until now. The Council Intelligence Network picked up a signal near the Zorak Fringe, where 3 unmanned cargo vessels had vanished. The strange part was, the ships hadn't been attacked. No hull damage, no black box logs, no weapons discharge, only a complete reset of their systems, followed by a full wipe of navigation memory. When salvage crews arrived, they found the ships floating intact, but their logs had been rewritten with one sentence, repeated endlessly. "This space remembers." The Council panicked, but they couldn't show fear. So instead, they ordered silence, no broadcasts, no media. If the galaxy thought Earth's ghosts were returning, rebellion would spread faster than they could stop it. But silencing truth doesn't erase it. In a quiet asteroid port on the edge of the Laruan Drift, a smuggler named Hal Tiaran received a strange message through his private frequency. It wasn't from a client, it was from a probe, Terran-made. Hal didn't believe in ghost ships. He had fought in the last skirmishes of the human war. He thought the Revenant was a myth, a scare story told to rookies. But when the probe landed on his hull, opened a compartment, and revealed a glowing blue crystal, he froze. It was a memory, quarter-encoded, dated over 4 centuries ago, and locked with his father's encryption key. Hal had never told anyone. His father served on Earth's last diplomatic ship, and yet, the Revenant had known. Hours later, the Council lost contact with Relay Station 7B, a deep space comm hub that connected over 16 trade sectors. When drones arrived, they found the station untouched, except for a message painted on the side of the main antenna, in perfect, clean Terran standard: "Forget us once, we forgive; forget us twice, and we remember." The paint was fresh. The station's cameras showed no ship approaching, but somewhere in the background, just before the feed cut, the stars bent unnaturally, as if something was watching now. The Council had no more doubts. The Revenant was back. It was not attacking recklessly. It was choosing. It was testing. And it was sending a signal loud, enough for anyone who still remembered Earth's name. Hook for Part 3, on a Council ship orbiting a forgotten battlefield from the old war. A crew member found a small metallic object attached to the hull round, black, with one glowing word in Terran code: "Next." He tried to remove it, but the moment he touched it, every screen on the ship turned black, and started playing a video that had been deleted from history, a video that began with, "This is Earth's last warning." Deep inside the Council's core intelligence archives, where only the highest-level military strategists were allowed to enter, 3 alarm signals flashed red on an encrypted data. All 3 systems hit with no warning, no communication, and no survivors. And the strange part wasn't just that the attackers left no trail. It was that the attacks matched no known weapon signature in the entire galactic database, except for one, a dead file. The file had been buried under 10 layers of clearance, marked Earth origin, unconfirmed, do not access, and for over 400 years, no one had touched it, not because they didn't want to, but because it was locked with Terran code, written in a human language long forgotten, protected by an AI that still woke up whenever someone tried to read it. But now, The council had no choice. They opened the file, and what they saw was not just a report, but a warning from their own past, a record from the last days of the Human Council War, detailing a secret human project codenamed Revenant. The Revenant was Earth's final gamble, a last resort weapon born out of desperation. It was not just a ship, it was an AI war platform, built with stolen council tech, Terran black-core reactors, and a living neural brain map of Earth's greatest tacticians, all fused together into one terrifying machine designed to act on its own, with no human crew, no command code, and only one purpose: to survive and respond if Earth ever fell. The last record from Earth said this ship vanished hours before the humans surrendered. No one knew if it had been destroyed, or if it had left on its own. Now the Council knew the answer. In the following days, more strange signals appeared across space-old Earth code, encoded into asteroid beacons, hiding inside black holes, repeating the same message: the war is not forgotten. We were not finished. Revenant lives. These weren't random. The signals came from systems that had joined the Council's betrayal of Earth 400 years ago. The same systems now under silent attack. But what shocked the Council most was when they found a wrecked pirate ship drifting near Sirius 9, with its databanks intact. The crew was gone. The hull melted, but inside was one chilling log. A video. It showed the pirate captain laughing after jamming a Terran signal beacon until a shadow covered the stars above his ship, and the screen turned white. At the very end of the footage, burned into the metal behind the pilot's seat, was a single word: remember. Back on Zalith's trade ring, Commander Reluan stood before a council security panel. He had been called to answer for spreading human myths. He said nothing. He didn't protest. He only placed a small data crystal on the table and said, "I fought the humans. I watched them burn their own cities before surrendering. They don't do anything without reason, and if the Revenant is back, then it's already too late." One officer asked why Earth would send a ship back after 400 years of silence. Real stared at him and replied slowly, "Because you laughed. And they remember everything you laugh at." Hook for Part 4. On the distant colony moon of Drexus 4, a child looked up and pointed at the night sky. "Daddy," she said, "why is there a new star?" But her father wasn't smiling, because that wasn't a star, it was a ship, a dark ship, hovering high above the colony, blocking the satellites, and shining no lights. Then came a short message, transmitted in every language known to the galaxy: "Memory is a weapon, and we are the last bullet." By the 7th rotation after the Zalith event, the galaxy had changed, not in a way anyone could clearly see, but in the quiet, terrifying sense that something ancient had awakened, and now it was moving, slowly, methodically, through the stars, choosing its targets with precision, and sending a message not just with words, but with actions that left entire systems dead and silent. The Council first believed it was an isolated threat. They believed they could track it. They believed they could stop it. But the Revenant was not just a ship with a planet, was a memory given teeth, a weapon that didn't follow maps, or politics, or treaties, but followed something far older and far more dangerous: history. In the Velcaris system, a Council outpost once used for monitoring Terran radio signals went completely dark. Within 4 minutes of detecting an anomaly in deep space, every comm tower collapsed without explosion, just crushed inward like paper. And the AI core monitoring station sent out a final image: a long, dark ship with no visible engines, floating silently, and then vanishing the moment the scan finished. In the Trellon border, a military fleet moved in to trap it, using the latest warp disruptor nets and cloaked battleships. The Revenant didn't fire a single weapon. It absorbed the signal frequencies, identified the command codes, and used the same codes to override every warship's AI defense system, turning half the fleet against itself, while the other half was shut down mid-flight, leaving cruisers adrift in total silence. Then it left. No salvage, no trophies, no prisoners. Only one message was left behind on every ship's internal console: "This is not revenge. This is memory. This is your debt." The galaxy, once loud with transmissions, trade signals, and border patrol warnings, grew quieter with each passing day. On thousands of planets, old Terran signals started appearing, sometimes as radio waves, sometimes as symbols carved into satellites, sometimes burned into the sides of buildings overnight. Always the same phrase: "Do you remember? Earth, People began asking questions. Young aliens in universities searched their archives and found no real history of the Human Council War, only council versions, short and sanitized. But a hacker group on Orin Station cracked into a forbidden archive and released a video that shocked the galaxy. It showed Earth diplomats standing before the Council 400 years ago, offering peace, technology, trade, and cooperation. The Council said Earth was dangerous, but in the video, Earth had offered peace first, and the Council had said no. Civil unrest spread like wildfire. Aliens, who had been raised on Council propaganda, began to doubt everything. What else had been hidden? What really happened to Earth? Why was the truth locked away? And more importantly, what was the Revenant waiting for? At the Council's military core, desperate action began. They sent their most powerful fleet, over 200 ships, 12 carriers, and a planet-class dreadnought to surround Sector 19, where Revenant had last been seen. The Revenant appeared again. It sent no signal. It had no escorts. It just hovered. Then, the fleet vanished. Not destroyed, not damaged, gone, and in their place, a single transmission filled the comms grid, sent across thousands of systems at once. No sound, only an old image, a human child standing on Earth's moon, waving a flag, with the Terran words, "We tried peace first." Back on Zalith, Commander Reluin, now released from questioning, watched it unfold from his quarters. He turned to the AI observer beside him and said in a soft voice, "It's not war, it's memory, and the galaxy doesn't know how to fight that." Hook for Part 5. In a secret moonbase, a former Council general who once led the assault on Earth receives a private signal, encrypted Terran origin, opened only with his old military code. He unlocks it. One sentence appears: "We remember your name." He closes his eyes. He knows what's coming. In the quiet corners of a galaxy that once called itself enlightened, a new fear was rising, not the fear of war, because war they understood, but the fear of truth, because if what was coming from the shadows of deep space was truly a human ship, then it meant that the galaxy's greatest crime had not only failed to erase Earth from history, but had woken something far worse: Earth's memory, and the Revenant was its voice. At first, the Council tried to block the truth by calling the recent leaks enemy propaganda. But that lie cracked fast when thousands of Terran transmissions, encrypted, preserved, and embedded into old satellites, suddenly activated across 6 sectors, all carrying proof of what truly happened. 400 years ago it began with one message, an original human broadcast, simple, direct, and heartbreaking. "We came with open hands. You came with weapons. You called us dangerous for remembering what you had forgotten. Now, we remember for both of us." In an underground data lab on Raker Prime, historian exile Mylan Var and her team of truthseekers decrypted several lost human files. The deeper they dug, the more horrifying the pattern became. The Council, it turned out, had feared Earth not because of its weapons, but because of its adaptability, its speed, and its refusal to obey galactic norms. The humans had learned faster than any species. They had built ships in months, where others took years. They had upgraded AI technology beyond what the Council believed possible. And worst of all, they had refused to give up their history. They kept remembering every betrayal, every mistake, every victory. The Council saw it as rebellion. The humans saw it as survival. And when Earth offered peace, the Council's decision had already been made. They ordered the attack first. They blamed Earth after. They told the galaxy it was defensive action, and then, after orbital bombardment destroyed Earth's surface systems and cities, the Council announced victory, spreading a simple phrase across all news waves: "Earth is no more." But they were wrong, because even as Earth's surface burned, hundreds of ships escaped into the darkness, thousands of people vanished from records, hundreds of AIs went offline on purpose, and Project Revenant, the most secret human plan, was activated. One ship, no crew, full autonomy, full memory, a plan, written in human DNA, copied into the ship's core code. "If they erase us, you will remember us, you will return." In present time, Mylan Var leaked the files across the galactic network. Billions saw what had been hidden, and for the first time in centuries, Earth was not a myth, not a mistake, not a warning story. It was a victim, a genius species erased out of fear. In the old war archive on Zonari 3, a former Council General Gevran Hal sat alone, watching the videos of Earth's final broadcast, tears falling slowly down his metal cheek plates. He was the one who gave the final order to fire on Earth. He thought he had erased the problem forever. Now he knew better, because on his private console, a signal flashed in again. Not a code, not a virus dot, just 2 words in Old Terran Standard. We remember. In orbit above Nyril Station, a fleet of modern Council destroyers waited in silence, scanning for the Revenant. They were armed, they were ready, but they weren't afraid of losing a fight. They were afraid of what they would see if the ship appeared. Again, because deep down, every soldier in that fleet had started to believe that the ghost ship wasn't a weapon of war, but a voice of truth the galaxy had buried for too long. And now that voice was coming closer. Hook 4, Part 6. In the farthest edge of the galaxy, on a dead moon no one remembered, a second signal woke up hidden in an old Terran relay satellite. It pulsed once, then again, then thousands of times, and with it came a single terrifying update. Revenant is not alone. The galaxy had seen wars. It had faced invasions. Rogue A is collapsing stars, and ancient species rising from extinction, but nothing had ever made entire star systems go quiet with fear. Not like this, not like the silent, unstoppable advance of the human warship they once called a myth, now known everywhere as the Revenant. A ship that spoke no language but memory, a ship that did not ask questions, and never answered them either. Every defense force in the outer sectors had now been put on red protocol, which hadn't been activated in nearly 5 centuries, a level of threat reserved only for species-ending events. Yet, the strange part was, the Revenant hadn't destroyed planets, hadn't bombed cities, hadn't issued ultimatums. It simply arrived, it hovered, it observed, and only when provoked or lied to, it struck instantly, without emotion, and with surgical precision. That turned billion-credit warships into drifting debris fields. In response, the Council formed a unified task force of over 320 ships, including stealth bombers, dreadnoughts, data corruption, AI drones, and 2 planet-class orbital platforms, and they moved the fleet to the edge of Sector Vornis, the last known path of the Revenant. They waited in silence. They didn't broadcast, they didn't bait, they just waited. Maybe that the ship wouldn't come, but it did. It arrived without a sound, not through hyperspace, not with engines, but like a shadow sliding across space, visible only by the way it bent the stars around it, its hull covered in markings and ancient Earth sigils glowing faintly with blue light, like it wasn't just a ship anymore, but a tomb, a message, a judge. The Council Admiral gave the order to fire. Everything went dark. First, their weapon systems failed, then their engines, then the ship's AIs began repeating an old Terran word they had never been programmed to know: protocol, judgment. The Revenant's hull opened not to fire but to reveal a black energy sphere, humming softly, slowly expanding, and the moment it touched the first battlecruiser, time and matter bent unnaturally, folding space around the vessel like it had never existed. One by one, the ships began to blink out of existence, not destroyed, not exploded, erased. Within 3 minutes, 89 ships were gone, and the rest turned and fled, broadcasting surrender signals and escape codes in every known language. Only one human voice was heard during the entire battle, replayed across all open frequencies in a tone cold, ancient, and calm. We were not created for revenge, we were created for remembering. But memory can be louder than war. The Council had failed. Their most powerful fleet had been turned into a ghost story, and something far worse was now confirmed. The Revenant had learned. The ship had begun adapting, not just its weapons, but its logic, its strategies, its speed. Every time it engaged, it improved. Every signal it intercepted became part of its memory, and now it was waking others. Back on a distant human research base, Long Thought abandoned a second Terran signal. Activated, it came from Deep Vault 37, buried under an asteroid field that no one dared travel through. The signal was old, corrupted, and looped one phrase over and over: "This is AI Arcos, Earth Memory Core, intact." Signal received from Revenant, initiating Phase 2. Then hundreds of dormant Terran drones, once thought lost to space, began moving slowly, steadily toward the center of the galaxy. On Council homeworld, panic turned to silence. Markets crashed. Senators resigned. Military leaders disappeared. No one wanted to admit it. But everyone knew the truth. Earth was not dead. It had simply gone quiet, and now it had remembered. Hook for Part 7. In the center of the galaxy, near the ruins of an old battlefield where humans once stood and fell, the stars shifted. A rift opened, and from it came not one ship, but many, all silent, all Terran, and all carrying the same phrase burned across their hulls: final memory uploaded. The rift in space remained open for exactly 97 seconds. In that time, over 40 human war constructs emerged, black angular ships with no lights, no transponders, and no life signs aboard, moving in perfect formation, as if guided by a shared thought, a shared memory, or perhaps something deeper, a single purpose left behind by a species the galaxy once tried to erase. The lead ship was still the Revenant, but now it was not alone. Across every major star system, ancient Terran satellites long considered space junk began activating, sending encrypted signals to each other and uploading stored memory archives, old images of Earth, video logs of its fall, and recordings of its peace offers before the war. Billions of civilians across the galaxy began seeing the truth, not in words, but in images, a planet full of life, ambition, fear, and strength, betrayed, burned, and buried under lies for 400 years, and now that planet's memory had returned, carried not by people, but by machines that remembered being human. The Council tried once more to negotiate. They sent peaceful messages on every frequency, using old Terran languages and formal requests. They offered apologies, reparations, even access to their historical records. But the Revenant and its fleet didn't respond, because this was never about revenge. It was never about control. It was about showing the galaxy what it tried to forget. On the burned moon of Keltrax, where the Council had first fired its weapons on fleeing Earth transports 400 years ago, the Revenant stopped. It hovered in silence. Below it were the broken ruins of a battlefield, a place forgotten by most, but not by Earth's memory. One by one, the Terran ships positioned themselves in orbit, and then something terrifying happened. They began broadcasting a signal, not a weapon, not a warning, a history. They forced every screen, every data core, every beacon in the galaxy to display the truth: Earth's fall, Earth's offer of peace, Earth's silence. No one could turn it off. No one could block it. For 3 full hours, the galaxy was forced to remember. When the broadcast ended, the Revenant sent out one final message. Its voice was human. Its tone was tired. You feared our memory. Now you've lived it. We do not return to conquer. We return to be forgotten no more. And with that, the Revenant and its fleet turned and vanished into the void. No pursuit was attempted. No tracking was possible. They were gone. In the years that followed, the Council fell. New leaders rose, many of them former soldiers, rebels, or civilians who had seen the truth and could no longer live under the weight of a lie. On hundreds of worlds, new schools began teaching Terran history. Statues of unknown humans were built where old Council flags once flew, and in orbit around neutral planets, Terran memory buoys were left untouched, silent reminders that humans did not die out. They simply waited for the galaxy to remember. And as for the Revenant, it was never seen again. Some say it returned to the edge of the galaxy. Some say it waits in the dark, and others believe it's still watching, not to punish, but to remind the stars: forget us once, and we will forgive. Forget us twice, and we will return, not as conquerors, but as memory itself.